Bus fares to rise in early January. Chief Executive John Lee shares his thoughts after meeting President Xi Jinping in Beijing. Hello and welcome to TVB News. 3 franchise bus companies received permission by the government for fare hikes of between 4.3% and 7.5%. The higher costs will come into effect on January 5th. This, as the government said, the approvals were made after careful consideration, noting that the move could help the companies maintain reasonable financial stability. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Bus passengers will have to start paying more starting next month when boarding public transport. The chief executive and council have approved the application made at the start of this year for fare hikes by 3 franchise bus companies. Kowloon Motorbus, or KMB, which sought for a fare hike of 6.5%, was granted an increase of 5.2%, with the actual hike being 4.3% after taking a tunnel toll fund into account. Citybus was granted a fare hike of 7.5% after it applied for an increase of 9.5%. Meanwhile, authorities approved New Lantau Bus's fare hike application of 6.5%. The government said the fare hikes had to be adjusted after consideration was given to the fact that passenger capacity of franchise buses has yet to reach pre-pandemic levels. Regarding Kowloon Motorbus and Citybus's earlier pledge to purchase more new energy vehicles, some are concerned about whether bus fares will further increase in the next few years. Commissioner for Transport Angela Lee noted that authorities will financially support the move whenever possible, while adding that bus operators could see reduced expenditure for fuel and repairs. Meanwhile, the Transport and Logistics Bureau said some 80% of passengers will not have to pay more than an extra 50 cents per trip after the hike. 95% of them will only pay an increase of less than $1 per trip. Authorities emphasize the average annual fare hike for the 3 franchise bus companies only reached 3% over the past 16 years. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Chief Executive John Lee said President Xi Jinping offered guidance to the SAR's development during his duty visit to Beijing. On the city's budget deficit, which is in the billions, Lee said they will work to boost income and cut spending. Jackie Lin reports.
Last week, President Xi Jinping met with Chief Executive John Lee as the city leader undertook his annual duty visit in Beijing. Speaking to the press ahead of the Executive Council meeting, Lee said there were 4 takeaways from Xi's speech. They include the central government's recognition of the SAR's work, Beijing's commitment to the one country, two systems principle, the acknowledgement that Hong Kong is in a good position for stable development, and the need for the SAR government to unite all sectors of the community to implement reforms. In this fiscal year, the city is dealing with a budget that is more than $100 billion in the red. John Lee said the administration will work to trim the deficit with reform and innovation initiatives.
Yes, we have a budget deficit, but already we have said that we will try to increase income and also to reduce expenditure as well and to promote economic growth so the businesses will make more money, as a result of which government will also have more income.
He also said with the resumption of Shenzhen's multiple entry visa policy, more tourists will visit Hong Kong over the Christmas and New Year holidays.
We can see the rise in figures of tourists, particularly over the weekend, which regularly sees an increase of between 20 to 30%.
The city's leader also called on the business sectors to seize the opportunity to provide more varieties of services and activities over the festive season.
We have to ensure that, first of all, we will treat them nicely so that they all have a good experience and will think of coming back.
Jackie Lin, TVB News.
The government is facing a budget deficit of $100 billion this fiscal year. With that, some have suggested that civil servants and principal officials should cut their salary. Chairman of the Finance Committee of the Legislative Council, Chan Chun-ying, disagreed, saying that it will adversely impact the economy. At the year-end press conference, Chan said a wage cut for officials gives minimal help to the public coffers. He added a salary cut of civil servants might lead to a salary adjustment of workers in the private sectors as well, leading to a vicious cycle. Some lawmakers note it is more important to increase cost effectiveness of the use of public money. Separately, LegCo's Finance Committee deliberated a total of 58 funding proposals over the past year. They involved some $250 billion. China has relaxed its visa-free transit policy, extending the permitted stay for eligible foreign travelers to 240 hours or 10 days. Under the updated policy that takes immediate effect, eligible citizens from 54 countries can enter China visa-free when transiting to a third country or region. They include Russia, Brazil, Britain, the United States, and Canada. Meanwhile, 21 additional ports have been designated for the visa-free entry and exit. They include Sanya and Haikou airports in Hainan province, as well as Huangshan Airport in Anhui province. A notable feature of the policy adjustment is the introduction of cross-regional travel. It allows foreign visitors to move freely across the 24 specified provincial-level regions during their 10-day stay. Still ahead, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump talks about China, TikTok, and other major issues in a press conference. Deadly shooting by a teenage student in Wisconsin in the U.S. And a preview of Macau's 25th anniversary of its return to the motherland. Welcome back. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump said in a news conference that President Xi Jinping has not responded to his invitation to the inauguration ceremony in January. It's reported that Trump met with TikTok CEO yesterday as the company has asked the U.S. Supreme Court to block a nationwide ban or sale law. Trump has hinted at opposition to the ban and promised to take a look without elaborating on the specifics. Danny Zhou has more.
Donald Trump held the first news conference since his election victory at his Mar-a-Lago club in Florida. The American president-elect in early November invited President Xi Jinping to attend his inauguration at the Capitol on January the 20th. But Trump said Xi has not yet said whether he is coming. He told reporters that he had a very good relationship with the Chinese leader, describing Xi as an amazing guy.
Because China and the United States can together solve all of the problems of the world, if you think about it. So it's very important.
As for the ban on the popular social media app TikTok, Trump noted he has a warm spot for the platform.
How do you plan to stop the ban on TikTok next month?
We'll take a look at TikTok. You know, I have a warm spot in my heart for TikTok because I won youth by 34 points. And there are those that say that TikTok had something to do with that.
A bill passed by the U.S. Congress in April demanded ByteDance, TikTok's Chinese parent company, to divest its holdings within 270 days or face an effective ban in the U.S. Earlier this month, the D.C. Court of Appeals rejected TikTok's claims that the law is unconstitutional and violates the First Amendment rights. In a last-ditch effort, TikTok on Monday filed an emergency appeal at the U.S. Supreme Court, asking for a temporary injunction that would delay the law's January 19th deadline. Sources said Trump met with TikTok CEO Shou Zi-Chew at Mar-a-Lago on Monday. It was part of a slew of meetings between Trump and Silicon Valley moguls, including Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg, Apple CEO Tim Cook, and Google CEO Sundar Pichai. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
In President-elect Donald Trump's wide-ranging news conference, he underlined the differences between the first time he took office 8 years ago and today. Trump also said he had a very good talk with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and would consider pulling 900 troops out of Syria. Tracy Furness has more.
Trump held court for over an hour, answering questions on a number of international issues, from his popularity to Russia, Ukraine and Syria, and his thoughts on President Assad.
I can say that Assad was a butcher. What he did to children. You remember I attacked him with the 58 missiles, unbelievable missiles coming from ships 700 miles away, and every one of them hit their target.
Trump said he had a very good talk with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, but deflected questions on conversations he may have had with Russian leader Vladimir Putin since winning the election in November. Trump saying the Ukraine-Russia situation is more difficult than the Middle East situation right now.
More difficult is going to be the Russia-Ukraine situation. I see that as more difficult. I don't think they should have allowed missiles to be shot 200 miles into Russia. I think that was a bad thing. And that brought the Koreans in, North Korea, another man I get along with very well. I'm the only one that does.
Trump joined SoftBank Group CEO Masayoshi Son to announce plans by the Japanese company to invest billions of dollars in U.S. projects over the next 4 years.
I'm thrilled to announce that SoftBank will be investing $100 billion in America, creating 100,000 American jobs at a minimum. And he's doing this because he feels very optimistic about our country since the election.
Regarding his popularity this time round, Trump says everyone wants to be his friend, unlike the first time round.
One of the big differences between the first term, in the first term everybody was fighting me. In this term everybody wants to be my friend. I don't know. My personality changed or something.
Tracy Furness, TVB News.
A female teenage student in the United States opened fire with a handgun Monday at a Christian school in Wisconsin, killing a teacher and a teenager during the final week before Christmas break. Police said the shooter also died.
3 people, including the shooter, are dead. The shooter has now been identified as 15-year-old Natalie Rupnow, who went by the name Samantha. She was a student at the school, and evidence suggests she died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Rupnow opened fire inside a study hall at the small Christian school, prompting a swarm of police officers responding to a second grader's 911 call. 3 died, including the shooter, and 6 others wounded, with 2 in critical condition. A motive for the shooting was not immediately known, nor was it clear if the victims were targeted. Police said the family of the shooter were cooperating with police and searching the shooter's home. Macau is gearing up for the inauguration of its 6th-term government and the visit of President Xi Jinping. As this year marks the 25th anniversary of the SAR's return to the motherland, Macau residents and tourists can ride the light rapid transit trains and public buses for free on Friday. Danny Zhou reports.
Installations celebrating the quarter-century anniversary are ubiquitous in the streets in Macau. The new border is also filled with banners. President Xi Jinping is slated to visit Macau on Wednesday to take part in activities in celebration of the return. He will be at the inauguration of the new term of the Macau government. In 2019, Xi officiated the sworn-in ceremony for the SAR's 5th chief executive, Ho Yat-Seng, and inspected a local school and the Macau Government Services Center in Area Preta. Ms. Chu, one of the center's staff members receiving Xi upon his visit, vividly remembered how Xi explained the operations. The president was kind, amiable, and took a positive note of their work. She said shaking hands with him was a great honor and lasting memory for her. The Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office of the State Council said in a statement that Macau has become a hot spot for the successful implementation of one country, 2 systems, which takes it from unrest to stability and prosperity. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
The opening ceremony for Hong Kong's Happiness Summit was held at the West Kowloon Cultural District today. The event invited representatives from various sectors to share their advice on improving happiness and well-being among the community. With Secretary for Labor and Welfare Chris Sun attending the event, participants had the opportunity to hear from Catholic and Anglican clerics, as well as Buddhist monks, on topics such as the search for joy and tackling suffering. Advice was also shared by representatives from the financial and entertainment sectors. This as Hong Kong's latest happiness index figures remain relatively low. With 10 being the highest score, the city scored 5.15 in workplace happiness, 5.88 in general happiness, and 6.43 in family happiness. The Kai Tak Sports Park organized its first cross-departmental counter-terrorism drill. Authorities said they will regularize such drills, adding that the current threat level of terrorists in the city is moderate. The rehearsal involved the police's counter-terrorism units successfully taking down some of the criminals, while government flying service helicopters provided backup. Secretary for Security Chris Tang was on site inspecting the situation. The police said despite a lack of data indicating the city being a target of such attacks, local authorities must stay prepared. The 15th National Games is less than a year away. Young Tak Kung, head of the National Games Coordination Office, said on TVB's Straight Talk program that the Games, which will be jointly organized by Hong Kong, Macau, and Guangdong Province, will bring many benefits to Hong Kong. Anip has more.
The National Games is the biggest sporting gala in China, held every 4 years. Hong Kong will be hosting 8 events, including fencing and golf, during the Games, which are expected to feature more than 10,000 athletes playing in venues such as the new Kai Tak sporting facilities. Head of the National Games Coordination Office, Yeung Tak-keung, said on TVB's Straight Talk program that the Games may be a chance for Hong Kong to showcase its ability in hosting world-class events.
Well, I think through hosting the National Games, we can show our capability in doing large-scale sports events successfully here in Hong Kong and also in cooperation with the Greater Bay Area. So hopefully, in the future, we can attract more large-scale events to come to Hong Kong.
The National Games, to be held from the 9th to the 21st of November, will also provide Hong Kong with the opportunity to develop tighter relations with the Greater Bay Area.
We have been working very closely with Guangdong and Macau. We work on different procedures and sometimes our timeline in doing something are different. But overall, our cooperation is very smooth because we all work on the same goal, that is to organize a successful National Games.
Earlier, a campaign to recruit volunteers to help in the Games saw more than 30,000 people apply. The overwhelming response from an eager public led the government to raise the number of volunteers from 10,000 to 15,000. Yeung said that the volunteers are crucial for the National Games because they are not only service providers, but ambassadors for the whole city. Ann Ip, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Have a good evening.